Hello, as promised, this is a short video to show you how my StratiScape software is going to interface with Petrel. Before I get to that though, let's just take a quick look at this line. I just want to make a few points. This is line or section of line 47 from your Mid-North Sea High project. Okay, I've just taken the center portion of it. I'm just using this as a test for the moment. Before we talk about StratiScape, I'd like you to just look at this display, which I think is pretty familiar to you. I'm using the standard Petrel colors, and just ask yourself what it is you want from the display. Now, in saying that, I'm not talking about geologically. I'm not talking about the actual interpretation. But what do you want to get from the display itself? The reason I want you to think about that is that Seismic contains a tremendous amount of information, both direct and indirect. For example, on here we can directly identify events and amplitude changes along events. And then we have indirect information such as faults, which you can detect here because of the displacement. So we have an incredible amount of information in the seismic itself. What types of that information are important to you? I want to begin with that because this is a display that we've used almost unchanged for more than 40 years. And even so, it's not a seismic display. And by that, what I mean, and it's one of my principal points, is that this is a color display. We're not looking at seismic itself, we're looking at seismic converted to color. So this is a proxy seismic display. We're using color as a proxy for seismic amplitude. And of course the reason I'm talking about that is that I'm going to use virtual reality to produce seismic displays that show seismic amplitudes and the structure of seismic directly. My point is that this is a very low resolution display, not in terms of temporal or spatial frequency, but in terms of the amount of information that's in the seismic that the display is able to resolve. What I'm saying is that regardless of what information you're interested in, there's a tremendous amount more of it that exists beyond this display. And that's all I really want to put in your mind, that this is a very low visual resolution display and that we're actually going to start looking for what lies beyond it. So with that said, what I produce is very high visual resolution displays. But those displays are necessarily not particularly useful unless they're integrated into an interpretation package. We don't really want a situation where we have two entirely different workspaces that we're working with. And so I want to show you how you can use StratiScape displays directly from within Petrel. To do that, all you have to do is go to this StratiScape tab, and this is the only button I have right now. I don't need a lot because most of it's dynamic. And if I click this Open StratiScape window, in theory a StratiScape window pops up. And it actually has, but it was behind everything. So this is the window, and it's opened up. It's a StratiScape window, and it's opened up directly from Petrel. And just stick this over on this side here so you can see it. And we don't actually need these side panels open, so I'm just going to close them to preserve screen real estate. Okay, so here we have the two windows side by side. The StratiScape window on the left, of course, and the conventional Petrel window on the right. So the first thing I'm going to do is just zoom in here, and I'm going to turn off the fill in StratiScape because I don't think we need it at the moment. So here we have two different looks at it. One using what's 1970 on the right using color technology, and the one on the left here using our virtual reality technology. And the first thing to notice is that the cursors are linked between the two. If you look on the left here, you'll see my cursor moving on the left, and if you see these little black lines, That's just cursor tracking. So if you look at this on the left, you'll see that there's a cursor in the Petrel window on the right that's tracking it. And this is really important, I think, as we move forward. So it works both ways. So we can go into Petrel, and so now I move the cursor over to Petrel, and you can see that the black lines are tracking quite nicely in StratiScape. So the next thing I want to show you is interpretation itself, because these are display windows, but they're also interpretation windows, and being able to interpret in both is critically important. So I'm just going to go into StratiScape over here. I've selected this event, and I'm just going to pick it, and I'll show you how the picking over here changes as well. So I'm going to pick it in StratiScape, which is kind of neat. And you'll notice now that the interpretation's changed in Petrel. Back over here, it's kind of nice to pick over here. And we've got undo functionality as well. So this is what we're going to use going forward. I think you'll like interpreting in StratiScape. Actual picking of events tends to be a little drudgery. But once you get into this 3D environment, it's much more fun. I probably shouldn't use the word fun, but you can see we're going to move along here, and it's picked here. We've been doing a fair bit of this, and it's much better to pick in the StratiScape window. So again, hit undo, and there you go. So the same also works in Petrel. If you pick in Petrel, it updates in StratiScape as well, but I don't think I need to show that. So the other thing I wanted to show you here is versioning. Well, it's called versioning in StratiScape. It's called vintages in Petrel. They have different offset regions for this. So in Petrel, you just simply click, and you can see how you're changing from one to another. In StratiScape, I'll just expand this. We go one beyond this. Because rather than just look at the multi-attribute setup here, I'm just going to do a version morph, and that's between far offsets, near offsets, and this morphs between them. So this is very useful in a lot of areas. The ability to actually morph is quite useful, we find. So that's pretty much all I wanted to show you. I just wanted to keep this short and just give you an idea of how the synchronization is going to work. I'll have a lot more to say about this in a few weeks as I get this thing closer to release. Right now my goal is to get the 2D interface working. StratiScape also works in 3D, but I'm going to start with simply get the 2D working and released, and then we'll do the 3D afterwards. One thing that you may want to look at in this data, just before I go, we zoom in here. See, there's something happening right here, whether it's in the processing or the subsurface. But you can see when you get into StratiScape how the amplitude goes from being consistent down here to erratic, and then not sure what's happening there. So anyway, just sort of push the point that there's a lot more information in this data than you would probably get just from color. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please get in touch.